can be only one podcast, and may it be the Princess of the Universe. Hi, folks, I'm Matt, and with me is no one, because everyone's under stay-at-home orders. It doesn't matter because it actually works out for the best. We were going to plan on taking a small break anyway. Book 4, The Wheel of Time, is pretty long. Took me a couple of weeks, and I think these guys will need an extra week or so to get it down, even though I'm way past book 4 now. I'm trying to get ahead because, to be honest, Bruce and Stephen both read a lot faster, or they have more time they can dedicate to reading than I can. Both of their jobs, they can just sit there and let it play, and my job, I just can't. I'm just too busy. Plus, I can't multitask, man. When I am listening to a book on audio, which I rarely do, I have to stop what I'm doing. If I do something else, I'll just miss out on it. So whenever I take the girls for walks or move them around at night, I always have it going, and that's how I can listen to it. But other than that, I even if I could have something like background music at work, I wouldn't even listen to this because I couldn't pay attention to it as much as I'd want to. But anyway, this break had been planned because I wanted to talk about Star Trek Picard. And since I'm the only Star Trek fan in the whole group, I guess I got to talk about it on my own. Now, if you recall, on Saturday Morning Samoflange, I had a co-host, Benjamin, and he was he still is a huge Star Trek fan. And he goes to bed every night while watching an episode of Star Trek The Next Generation. Every night he watches one episode. It's a tradition he's done ever since he was in college, and he says he still does it today. He runs through each and every episode, and each night a different episode. Now that is dedication there. That's a big Star Trek fan. I don't think I'm that big. I don't go to bed every night watching it through. In fact, I've probably seen each of the series all the way through completely, I believe, twice. Now, some of them I've seen more than others, obviously. Like the original series I've seen several times over because we used to watch that when we were kids. But on the rest of the stuff, besides the occasional rerun, I've watched it through all the way through twice. And it's been fun. I do enjoy Star Trek. Now, of course, to recap, the one Star Trek show I cannot stand is Star Trek Discovery. I hate it. We watched the first season together. Me and Benjamin did. We bullied through it. He kind of gave up before the end. He couldn't go any more episodes. He's a bigger Trek fan than I am. And I bullied through because a friend of mine had told me to watch it, and it was awful. It was awful. And then I watched the Trek shorts, and they weren't as bad. Some were just stupid, but some were okay. I was like, well, maybe I'll give it another shot for season 2. And I got about 4 or 5 episodes in, and I was like, this is such garbage. And I finally bowed out, and I can't go back. So I was very happy to hear that Star Trek Picard had gotten greenlit. I was excited to see it was going to take place in the Prime universe, which is the universe I enjoy. Discovery, I don't know what universe it takes place in. It's just stupid. But Star Trek Picard is taking place in the Prime universe, and I really enjoyed that. And I was ready to give this a shot. Now, I'd heard terrible reviews on this, that it was dark now. Everything was changed. It doesn't feel like Next Generation. And I kept telling myself, well, that's because it's not Next Generation. Picard, even Patrick Stewart said, hey, this won't be, Next Generation. It's going to be kind of a separate own entity here. And I was like, yeah, okay, well, I can get around that. I can still love it. To be honest, they could have just made the whole show called Picard, called it Picard, and have him just growing grapes on his, ranch, his wine ranch. I would have been fine with that. Every week someone comes by and they discuss funny stories over wine. I think that'd be great. I thought that'd be a fantastic series if you think about it. A guest star every day, and they're talking about old memories or just new memories that we've never seen before. Oh well. But that's why I'm not writing this Star Trek Picard series. Now, I have seen some of the Red Letter Media reviews, not all of them. Like as of this video, they have not reviewed the last few episodes. And I have to admit that I only agree with maybe 30%. It could be 20, but I'm going to be generous and say 30% of what they say. Of course, those guys are huge Star Trek fans, and they want to complain about everything. I am a little bit lighter on the complaints and everything. I didn't go in thinking, okay, this is going to suck. I went in saying, well, hopefully it'll be better than Discovery, which I do think it is. Now, I was a Star Trek fan, or getting into Star Trek big, before I got big into Star Wars way back in the day. The Star Wars movies had come out. There were no books or comic books anymore. Marvel had wrapped up their series, but I wasn't reading comic books anyway back then. And I remember I was reading when my dad's secretary was a Star Trek fan, and she was giving me these Star Trek books, and I was going over and watching the original series with her because she had them all on VHS way back in the day. And we would watch a couple episodes, then I'd go back home, and I'd always watch episodes with her. It was a lot of fun. And then she gave me some books, and I noticed that one of the books had a discrepancy in it from the TV show. And I went to her about it. I said, hey, this book states this, but that wasn't the case. She went, well, Matt, the books and the TV show they contradict a lot. And I went, what? There was new shows came out and new ideas and new stories form. They just kind of they don't pay attention to the books. And I was like, well, then what's the point of reading the books? And then I was even more depressed to see that even the TV show contradicted other past TV shows. The movies contradicted the TV shows. I mean, everything had many contradictions. I was like, oh. And I was kind of like, I'm done with reading the books then. There's no point. I'll just enjoy the TV show and ignore, or maybe just come up with my own idea of how to get the movies and the TV show to match up. For instance, Star Trek First Contact. Probably the most egregious contradiction was they took Zefram Cochrane's character and totally redid it for the Next Generation when his story was already told in the original series. And I enjoyed the original series, so it was a bigger slap in the face to me as well. And First Contact, besides that, I mean, it is a good Star Trek movie, but that is just a thorn in my side when I watch it again. I'm like, that's not Zefram Cochrane. Come on, get out of here. But for the most part, I did enjoy the Next Generation crew. I wasn't just, I grew up watching the original series. When Next Generation came out, I was super excited. I only watched episodes here and there. I thought they were fine. I know a lot of original people hated them back in the day because they weren't Bones, Spock, and Kirk. You couldn't be Bones, Spock, and Kirk. It'd be someone different. And so I agreed with the new characters. Now, I still think the original series is the best, by far. I just love it. I just love it to death. The Next Generation is maybe my second favorite. I say maybe because Deep Space Nine, every time I finish it, it's amazing. It is amazing. Maybe if we got to grade season 1, which season 1 of Next Generation and Deep Space Nine was the worst? Perhaps Deep Space Nine. So therefore, I guess Next Generation is my second favorite. But Deep Space Nine is brilliant, and it gets a close number 3, followed very closely. Like it's a step or two down, but Enterprise. I know Enterprise is a show that a lot of Trek fans really hated until Discovery came out. And but I still love Enterprise. I rewatched it again. I just love it. I love it. That I can't think of her name right now. I was going to say Tuvok, but he's in Voyager. But the girl, the Vulcan girl, doggone it. Obviously, I don't love it that much if you can't remember the characters' names. Goodness gracious. But I loved Captain Archer. I loved all the characters on there. I thought they were great. And I really enjoyed Enterprise. I think that was just really a fun one. And then Voyager ranks last. The Doctor, the hologram Doctor, is the only good thing about Voyager. Any episodes with him are phenomenal. Like some of the best Star Trek had to put out. But then episodes that don't revolve around him suck. They're awful. I don't like them. Voyager was literally a waste of time. I remember watching Voyager it came on UPN way back in the day, and we didn't have UPN. We had you had to get like this satellite, and you had to turn it just right, the antenna just right to get it. And I remember I got an antenna. I bought a TV antenna. I mean, this is back when antennas were basically going the way of the buffalo, but you could still buy one at a Walmart. And I bought the antenna just so I could pick up UPN. And even when I could pick it up, the signal was so fuzzy, because it wasn't on cable. And I was like, oh, man, well, I want to watch Voyager. And I saw a couple episodes. I remember I watched the Q episode and a few others when it first came on. But I got bored very quickly with that series and would watch it on and off, but literally just did not enjoy it. And then when I went back and watched it through the first time, I was like, yeah, I think it was right there. Now, there were the Dominion were a good, were those in the, no, those were that was in Voyager. I'm getting my Star Trek mixed up here. But anyway, they had some good villains. Jeffrey Combs really did a good job. I am thinking Deep Space Nine. Never mind. Is there anything good about Voyager? I'm trying to think of good things about Voyager. I go to Deep Space Nine. The Ferengi were in Deep Space Nine, which really made Deep Space Nine really good. Okay, well, obviously, Voyager sucked, I thought, just overall. Anyway, so then we get to Star Trek Discovery. Obviously, I hate it. I can't stand it. Picard comes out, and I'm fine with it. I think it ranks ahead of Voyager. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. The jury's still out on that because there's not... I like the captain of the ship, the side character. He's the only one that I like because of all the characters he gets to play through the holograms. I think he's really interesting, or his holograms are, I should say. Other than that, everyone else on that show, like the blonde doctor, I can't stand her. The kid, he's not a Vulcan. I think he's a Romulan. The kid Romulan is just vanilla, man. You don't even know anything about him. His character isn't hardly fleshed out the whole time. And Raffi, at first she's interesting, but then she gets very boring very quickly. Why is 7 of 9 in this series? You know, I don't know because, and here's where I do agree with Red Letter Media, because fanboys wrote this, and fanboys like 7 of 9, so they put her in. She has no connections to Picard. This whole thing that she and Picard have this long relationship is just bogus. It's bogus, completely bogus and false. 7 of 9, I hated during Voyager. I thought she was awful. Now, thankfully, this 7 of 9 is nothing like the 7 of 9 from Voyager. And she may be a little bit more interesting now, but I still don't like 7 of 9, so it doesn't change my opinion, I guess, of her as a character. But she doesn't, I mean, it's got to tick Voyager fans off, right? Because here she is trying to be more human and trying to get her feelings in, and now she's like, yeah, screw everyone, you know, I'll kill this person because I want to. And you're like, wait a minute, what? And that is one thing, another thing I do agree with Red Letter Media. Now, I disagree with a few things with Red Letter Media. One is how the Federation has gone like over to the dark side, you know, why there are dark times now in only 13 years. Because I do see, I mean, you look at movies like Star Trek Insurrection, which the Federation was ready to break the Prime Directive, and that's the whole thing why his crew had to insurrection. They went up against the Federation, Picard and his crew. So it seems like the Federation was losing their way already. So to me, it's more believable that they did lose their way. Now, the biggest complaint out of all this is, and my other buddy, Benjamin, he was watching with me. He watched like the first, I think, 5 episodes or 6 episodes with me. It may have been 5. And he was telling me that he just didn't like any of the characters. And he's right. Besides the captain of the ship, and mainly his holograms, I should say, that's the only interesting side character. And Picard's good too. The guest star appearances, Hugh, that was nice. Everyone else, they got a different actor, so who cares? Like Dr. Bruce Banner. No, not Bruce Banner. Was it Bruce? Bruce whatever. And the kid from Voyager, who they got a different actor to play him, I guess because they couldn't get the kid. I don't know. Either way, though, when you get a different actor to play a grown-up character or whatever, or the same character from the original series, I'm not impressed. I'm impressed when you get that original actor back. Now, I was wrong because I guessed that Q was going to show up, and he didn't. And I'd love to see John DeLance show up as Q. I think that'd be great. Maybe later on he will. They fixed Picard's little "I've got something in my brain, I'm dying" from the season 7, the finale, where we find out he has a brain disease or whatever, and it's finally. I like how everything's finally coming true, but then of course they miraculously fix it by putting him in a golem body. I don't know. That was totally ridiculous, completely ridiculous, and I did not like that. Now he's free to do whatever he wants. What does he want to do? He wants to go out there and have more adventures. Why would he want to do that? I thought he was happy living at home. I just don't get that. Why would he want to just go back and have more adventures? I thought, isn't he retired? I mean, I don't know. That kind of stuff. I know they want to do another season, so that's why he's not retired. But there was a few things. I mean, yeah, the Federation drops the F-bomb a few times. Ooh, it's CBS All Access. They can do that. That's basically the old HBO mentality. We're HBO. We can cuss on our shows. We can show nudity. That's a lot of the early HBO and Star shows do that because I was saying, hey, just to make sure we're not cable. Just to remind you, we're not cable. And that's what CBS All Access is doing. It's just a pissing contest there. But the one thing I didn't, my big, most grievous thing with it is not including the original cast. Now, the thing is, this is not supposed to be a reboot of Next Generation, but they made it and to where it makes sense. I mean, Data's child is in this, so Data makes an appearance in it, guest star appearance. Of course, Riker and Troy, Diana Troy, make appearances in it. And the thing is, it's always good to see them. It's always good to see the cast, the original cast. I would have liked to have seen more. And who knows, maybe we will. But when you're focusing around Data, and I love how Data, when you're focusing around Commander Data and the events, I like how they didn't ignore the events of Nemesis. I also like how they included J.J. Abrams' universe by explaining about the cataclysm that happened and the first rebooted Star Trek. But that instead of going into that new universe, we stayed in the Prime universe. I absolutely love that idea. That was genius. There's a lot of stuff I did like about it, but the main thing I hated was if you're going to make it about Data, then why not include the original cast? I mean, it makes sense. First off, Data, and I do agree with Red Letter Media. I think it's the last thing we agree on, is that Data and Picard were never friends. I mean, they got a lot of scenes because they were the most popular people in the movies, but they didn't have many scenes together in The Next Generation, and he and Geordi were better friends. So Data would have left the message with Geordi, and it makes more sense to be with Geordi. I mean, this should be, Geordi's show. It should be him pursuing Data's children. But that Picard doesn't even want to get him involved. I mean, he says, oh, I could call them, but I don't want to get them involved. Why not? It's with one of your old crewmen. And they're all capable. They'd all want to help, and they'd be mad if you did not include them. Like Geordi must be pissed. He's like, "Hey, Data had kids, and you didn't tell me, jerk." It just that does not make sense. In that, we see Riker. He's retired and everything, but then he comes out of retirement at the end. I called that, by the way. He was going to come out of retirement at the end when he said, "I'm on active reserve." You knew he was going to come back. Well, the thing is, why didn't Picard go to him and say, "Hey, Riker, pull some strings, get me a ship"? Riker would have done it. Riker would have manned it himself. I mean, he would have done it. So the thing is, the mission would have been accomplished easier and would have been much better had he gotten the original crew involved. I mean, Worf would have been there for some muscle to help him out, protect him along the way, and fight off all these villains, I mean, it's just so dumb why they weren't included. Now, I know why, because Patrick Stewart wants his own show. He doesn't want to do a reboot of The Next Generation. But don't make the story where it's obvious we need to include everyone else. Don't make it about Data. I like how you tied it to Nemesis, but don't tie it to anything. This is just Picard's own little, mission on his own that involves no one else but him. And when he says, "I don't want to get anyone involved," well, then he ends up with a crew of really nobodies, and he wants to get them involved. Well, why not The Next Generation? Again, that excuse makes zero sense why The Next Generation cast is not in there. I'm not complaining that they should be in there. I'm just saying, by the story that was told, it was the perfect opportunity, and it makes more sense to have the original cast in that show. So change the story if you're going to do something like that. I thought that was terrible. Also, the death of Data, the death part 2 of Data. No, man, that cheapens the movie for Nemesis. He died in Nemesis, let it go. Now, I'm glad B4 never worked out. I'm super happy because I thought that was a really cheap thing to do, was basically have him clone himself as B4. And B4 is going to be the new Data. No. That was stupid. So I'm glad they said that B4 never worked out. Awesome. You killed off that storyline. But then you had to give Data another death scene. I don't know. The whole thing was hokey with Picard saying, "I love you, Data." Oh, my goodness. Oh, my God. I mean, it's just... I could hear a million groans and some laughter because people thought that was hilarious and stupid at the same time. So it does drop the ball a little bit. I do the whole thing with the synthesis men or whatever, the androids, the android uprising. Why are people mad at Picard for doing that? Because he took a big fleet to rescue the Romulans when it happened. No one knew it was going to happen. It wasn't Picard's fault. I don't see why he's being blamed for this or why he should feel guilty for that. Plus, the whole thing with androids doesn't make any sense. It makes zero sense, the android uprising and the Romulan, whatever they foretold this, this horrible thing happening, and they're trying to break the prophecy or whatever. I don't know. All of it was just kind of dumb. And I do agree with Red Letter Media. It was written by fanboys who don't appreciate Star Trek. Do they know Star Trek? Yeah, they know the highlights of it. They know, no, they just know the highlights of it. And they just remember certain things, and they want to do those things there. And they don't want to focus on actual storytelling and what the character development and, and just making something that regular fans, can say, oh, I remember that. Oh, I remember that. And Red Letter Media hit the nail on the head there. But we had already said that when Benjamin and I were watching it for the first 4 or 5 episodes. I said, man, I wish this was written by a real Star Trek fan instead of just some fanboys. And he's like, right? In fact, I don't even know if Benjamin was going to finish it. Last I talked to him, he said he was going to try it. But at the same time, he said he is not motivated. So I guess after Enterprise, he's just burned out. And I hope he is watching Enterprise again, because he didn't like Enterprise either, but I told him to rewatch it. But Enterprise is by far the better series, I think. And maybe Voyager would win out only because of the Doctor episodes. There's no good episode in Picard I can pick out and say, ooh, this was awesome. There wasn't one like that. There is for Voyager. So I'll put Voyager over Picard for now. Now, Picard has potential. I will watch Season 2. Yeah, I'll gladly watch Season 2. I just hate that there were so many glaring errors, meaning the whole story of not involving the cast, but making it about Data was just stupid. It was totally stupid and would never happen. What guest stars do we want to see? We already said Q. We already know that Guinan, Whoopi Goldberg, has been asked to come back because he did that on the on her little talk show. He asked if she wanted to come back for Season 2, and she boo-hooed. I mean, good for Whoopi. I mean, I'm glad she'll get a role as Guinan. That'll be fun. But I don't know who else is going to be on. I hope Geordi is on. I hope Worf is on. I hope Beverly Crusher's there. I hope we get to see Beverly Crusher. Who knows? Maybe even we'll tie up Wesley's storyline, because he kind of just disappears with the Traveler, and that's basically it. Sure, he was in a deleted scene of Nemesis, but it was deleted, which means, well, I don't know in the Star Trek universe, but in the Star Wars universe, that means it wasn't canon. But who cares about canon, because we're talking about Star Trek here. So I guess, should you watch Star Trek Picard? Yes. By the way, CBS All Access was free for the past 30 days. I think that's over now, or about to be. It may still be free for 30 days. I don't know. Check it out. If you want to, yeah, you can check it out. It's okay. For Star Trek fans, Next Generation fans, I think you should watch it just to, resolve your curiosity. Is it the Next Generation that you love so much? No, it is not. No, it's dark. It's gritty. There are, in the 21st century or whatever, 25th century, we've eliminated poverty and hunger. And, well, no, because there's a lot of people in poverty, a lot of people in hunger, a lot of people living as vagabonds. I mean, and that kind of stuff doesn't make any sense. But I don't know. I mean, go ahead and watch it to satisfy your curiosity. And for me, I am going to watch Season 2. I can't. It's way better. This is way better than Discovery. Maybe if Discovery had never been made, I would hate Picard more. This is interesting to think about, because I really cannot stand Discovery. And I'm so happy there's something else Star Trek-y to watch that is not Discovery. That's Picard. Picard wasn't awful, but it was definitely, there were moments where you're like, you're banging your head against the wall because none of it makes sense. And it was obviously written as, there are these, overused tropes from Star Trek that these writers just came up with. They think they're brilliant. I'm not a Kurtzman fan, obviously, just like most Star Trek fans aren't, because I just don't like the lack of attention to detail. I love attention to detail, which is why Wrath of Khan is still the best Star Trek movie they'll ever make. Ever, because the guy watched every episode of Star Trek, the original series, before writing Star Trek 2. And the one that just popped up in his head and wouldn't go away was the space seed. He went, I think there's more of a story to tell there. And he told it. Now that is a true fan there. I mean, he may not even love Star Trek, but he did his due diligence and watched every original episode before trying to come up and write his own script, which is why it feels the most, in my opinion, like Star Trek. And it's got this classic, and would Gene Roddenberry like it? Because people are like, Gene Roddenberry wouldn't like it. It's about war. It's about revenge. Yes, but it's got a Moby Dick aspect to it that I think Roddenberry would have appreciated. Probably not at first, but let it settle a little bit. He would have been like, yeah, that's showcasing the old tale of Moby Dick. And maybe would have hearkened more on Kirk's lesson afterwards. But other than that, I think Roddenberry would have been okay. Maybe he was okay with it. I don't know. But But I really think Wrath of Khan is the best movie out there, and nothing compares to it. Now, there's been great movies. Like I said, the last one, the rebooted ones, 3 was actually really good, surprisingly good for me. I hated Into Darkness. I think every fans, or most Star Trek fans, hate Into Darkness. And then the first Star Trek was okay. The reboot was okay. I guess they're not going to make any more because they've all kind of parted ways. Sad, but oh well. Star Trek and Star Wars are kind of in a burnout phase right now where they're kind of just rekindling the fan base through TV shows. I mean, Star Wars is doing it through Mandalorian, which a lot of people enjoy. And Star Trek's doing it through Picard and Discovery. Well, not Discovery. I think Discovery sucks. But anyway, I'm sure they'll be big and back in theaters soon enough because nothing ever dies when it comes to a franchise and a movie studio that knows they can make money off of it. Folks, I told you on my monthly update a few weeks ago that I did not have an idea for what the next podcast was going to be, but I think I do. I think I do. If possible, I'm going to have my brother on, and we're going to discuss his part 3 upcoming science fiction novel. I've had him on here for the first 2 during the stay-at-home orders. He has sat down and bullied through 3. He wasn't even supposed to finish this till like this summer, I think. He was going to work over the summer. But it is getting ready to come out next month. So if that's and it's an ebook. So, I mean, if that comes out, hey, it's extra stuff for people to read, even for order to stay from home another 2 months. But I'll probably bring him on here to talk about that. Afterwards, we will go back and we will talk about Wheel of Time. I'm excited on it. Currently, as of this recording, I am wrapping up book 6, and hopefully by the time this recording is over, I'll be on to 7 and trucking through it. There are a few other books I kind of want to read in between, and obviously one of them is my brother's book. But other than that, that's what I'm doing during this stay-at-home thing, is just reading, and reading. It's a sense of accomplishment, though, when you read a big book. A lot of people know this. It's kind of like climbing a mountain, in fact. I bet you're really proud of that after you finish building something. I remember I used to work for a carpenter in Baltimore, and I built an entire business floor. Well, me and my buddy did. We marked it out one day with chalk. Then the next day, put in the studs and the metal framing, and then started hanging drywall, and then making doors the next day after that. And by the time it was over, that entire floor was one big office building. It was really cool. I mean, the electrician came in and ran wires. I didn't get to do the electricity work, but everything else I did. And I would love, if I ever go back to Baltimore, I'm going to ask my buddy what building was that, what floor it was, because I want to go back there and see, because he said a lot of times, unless they do a big reformat, he said this will last for a good 20 years. Well, it's been over 20 years now, so it's probably been reformatted now. But he said sometimes that works. Well, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it stays the same forever. And that would be really cool if my door and my, the buildings, the wall, the floor I built is still there. You just kind of walk around with that little sense of accomplishment. I feel that way whenever I finish a book. I'm like, yeah, I climbed that mountain. Now let's go to the next one. So for me, reading is where it's at. But I do hope that you are having, if you are staying at home like I am, you're having fun things to do as well, whether it be video games or books or movies or binge. Everyone says, what are you binge watching? Man, I cannot stand TV, and I don't watch much anymore, new stuff, but I thought I'd catch up on Fear the Walking Dead. I'm 4 episodes. I just started episode 4. In the past, 3 weeks? So I'm watching, 1 episode almost a week. I just haven't been watching much TV, but Fear the Walking Dead doesn't interest me, but it's something to bide my time since there's nothing else on. I do it while I'm eating something. And when I stop eating, I go back to reading a book, which is what I really want to do. So that's really the only thing I'm watching. I will not give a report on that. Fear the Walking Dead still sucks. It's just something for me to watch because there's really nothing else out there. I don't want to start something new right now because I am enjoying reading. But anyway, listen to me. I'm rambling here. This is what happens when you only have me on the podcast. I have no one else to bounce things off of, and I start talking. It's funny because I don't talk as much, if you notice, when there's other guests around. That's because I want them to get their words in. But anyway, all right, so that's all the time we have for now, folks. We'll see you next time on Princes of the Universe.